Welcome back to Planet's series on education for the 21st century. In our previous program, we were fortunate enough to be able to look closely inside the significant events of one person's life in order to better enable us to understand the power of the early childhood environment. Today, we will continue to look at this world of conditioning and the role of the early childhood environment, except we will look at this world through the eyes of a professional early childhood educator. Our guest today is Claire Marr. In previous programs in this series, we've been talking about balancing the emotional self with the thinking self, and thereby having some opportunity to break through the conditioned patterns of behavior. I know, Claire, that you have 30 plus years experience working in early childhood level education, both as a teacher and a director of an early childhood centre in, I would say, a fairly socially upward mobile community in the New York area. Would you care to comment on the importance of this balancing of the emotional self and the thinking self and these conditioned patterns of behavior?
Children learn very early on certain truths about life by osmosis. If their parents are kind, they are usually kind. If their parents are honest, truthful, patient, children, it's the whole foundation of everything that comes for the rest of their lives. No child comes with a manual, and parents come with baggage, because very often even a young parent is trying to prove to their parent what a good parent they can be to win acceptance. Everybody likes applause and everybody likes acceptance. But at the same time, somewhere along the line, a lot of parents lose sight of the fact that they want their children to have good emotional skills, and they get caught up in the 1, 2, 3s and the ABCs. And there is a tremendous push in society for that. And I think a lot of it has to do with ego. The parents want to show what a good parent they are, and look at what a good job I'm doing. And they begin to pass values on to their children. I can remember having a little boy in school. He was an artist. He was very talented. And I said to him, oh, maybe someday you'll grow up to be an artist. And he said, oh no, my mother told me I have to grow up to be a doctor. So already there was this conditioning that being a medical person had more status as such, whether you wanted to be it or not. Ironically, I met that child 20 years later. He was a car salesman and very happy. So, you know, you always want what you believe is best for your child. And parents have goals. And they pass these goals and they pass these demands on to the children. And they don't listen to the children when they talk. They don't listen to the children when they think. And they don't accept what they're having to say because they become very caught up in the rigors of what society thinks is best. And it's not always what's best for the young child. Things like cleanliness. Some parents stress cleanliness. Always wash your hands before you eat. Don't touch anything that's dirty. Don't play in the mud. But yet today's child, very few have learned to wash their hands after they've used the toilet. So there's a breakdown, and the children are being sent mixed signals.
Young children's behavior so readily reflects the values of the parents and the society. And in fact, much of the rituals and traditions in both the society and the family, we could even understand as concentrations of this conditioning. So I was wondering if you could give us some more examples or talk to us a little bit about what type of values you see reflected in the young children's behavior today.
Child's needs have not changed, but behavior has changed. A lot of it is because parents are very, very busy. A lot of it is because they are possessed by possessions. A child no longer can play with a box and have a good time. It has to be a piece of equipment that goes ding and dong and bong and things of that nature, which is not necessary. Families spend very little time together. They spend very little time dialoguing with each other. There's a tremendous amount of time spent on activities. Parents want the children to have it all. They have to be exposed to everything, but there's not too much time spent on things such as manners. Thank you, please, may I, excuse me. There's not too much time spent on appreciation of property. Children will say, if a book is ripped, if they rip a book, we'll go get a new one. So there's not a respect for property. There's not a respect for authority. They don't respect their own parents sometimes. I'm amazed at the parents will permit children to kick them and hit them. But no is not a nice word. You might traumatize the child, so they learn that that behavior is acceptable. Sometimes parents are embarrassed and are embarrassed by it. Parents will tell a child to play by the rules, and yet they'll park by a no parking sign, sending messages to the child. So that family life is not simple as it used to be, and it's reflected. You can tell a lot about family life with the children. You know, very often you'll see them in a dramatic area, and the child will be playing the daddy, usually coming home, and I want my beer, where's my dinner? And some little girl will rush to accommodate it, and that tells you a little bit about the home life of the child. That children also, they're not so much responsible for their behavior anymore. That mom will say, oh, well, they're cranky today because they haven't slept or they didn't eat well. And they're cranky because they just are poorly mannered and they don't want to sit or whatever. Cause and effect. That if you do A, then B is going to happen. They don't seem to care so much about that anymore. And these are traditional values that children have always had. So that it's very much become the part of the school to determine these values, the first part of the year that the children are in school. Like, you know, be kind to your friend, treat your friend nicely. We treat you nicely, you have to treat other people nicely, be patient. Accept everybody. Not, that differences are okay. Parents will say, even at a very early age, you have to learn how to read by the time that you're 4, so they'll get them tutors. And the parent is sending the message, I'm really helping you. The child's receiving the message, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. So parents really have got to have some type of training as to where the milestones of growth and behavior are. No parent would ever expect a 6-month-old child to walk, but they will expect a 3-year-old child to read, but that 3-year-old child may not be potty trained yet.
That's very interesting because, you know, very little attention is still not given to the emotional needs and the psychological needs in terms of knowing when these milestones are. I mean, even at the, you know, at an adult level, if somebody comes into an office and they've got a flu and they're coughing and sneezing, everybody's, oh, you know, you poor thing, and, you know, can I get you this, can I get you that? If somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm a little down today, everyone's like, oh. They actually steer clear of the person,
Exactly.
you know, and if that happens more than once, then they've got a problem.
What also happens with young children, somewhere around the age of 5, they begin to censor. Censorship begins. And I mean, if we're all honest, we've all censored with our own parents, with our friends, with our spouses or whatever. There is a certain amount of censorship. And they learn that, well, if I'm sad, I don't want to hear, you have nothing to be sad about. If they fall and they cry, I don't want to hear, be brave, don't cry.
Be who you're not.
Be who I want you to be, the perfect child. What about children who love to dress up in the opposite gender? I've seen children say, don't tell my daddy I put on the dress today. He will be very angry. He says, little boys don't do that. And so already at 4 and 5, there's a censorship. And that child may just be wanting to know what it feels like. And very often parents will say, we've had a new baby. Oh, and Johnny just loves the new baby. The baby is wonderful. He's such a good big brother. Well, Johnny will come in. He'll find a doll in the dollhouse, throw it on the floor, step on it, and say, I hate you. You know, well, he has now censored his information to his parent because it is absolutely so unacceptable.
Hence starts the beginning of being authentic in one environment and not authentic in another environment.
Of being two different
Yeah.
personalities.
Or more.
Or more. Somehow, the idea that we just want you to be happy becomes, we want you to be happy, but it's going to be on our terms. And that just doesn't work.
One of the most important things in early childhood education would be parental awareness and perhaps some parental education programs or training.
We have tried to have programs. People who come to the programs are the people who don't need them. The people who have very poor parenting skills are too busy doing whatever. Because parents are so rushed too, there's a certain learned helplessness with children that, hurry, hurry, we've got to get our shoes on. Here, I'll put your shoes on for you. Where's your jacket? Get your jacket. Come on, I'll put your jacket on. And there's a learned helplessness so that the child still feels very much a part of the parent, doesn't see themselves as a separate unit. And that can be determined in their artwork. When a child can draw a circle, a closed circle, it's one of the first indications that that child sees himself as a person. I am my own entity. I am not attached to my parent. And that's a very big step.
That can bring with it, I believe, a new level of fear.
Of course.
I'm this little thing and you're this big thing.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is lie down on a floor and look up. And you're a big person. You can be very threatened by people walking by you. And if you're very small, a little 2-year-old, this can be very, very scary.
Particularly if there's a thundering personality with the big body.
Yes.
But even talking about thunder, children, don't be afraid of thunder. There's nothing to be afraid of. Well, but if you're afraid, you're afraid. Let's acknowledge it and let's discuss it. Let's have some dialogue about it as to, and use that almost as a learning experience.
I'd like to read a very short quote by a Swiss psychologist who I think has revolutionized the way we look at early childhood, particularly cases of abuse and neglect. She deals with fairly severe cases, but the argument can be generalized to less severe cases of mistreatment. And I think that severity often has to do a lot with not the act but the sensitivity of the child and how they're going to perceive any act. But that's a philosophical point perhaps. Society chooses to regard the mistreatment of children, judging it to be altogether normal because it is so common. I was wondering, Claire, if you would care to comment on this quote in light of the values that you see reflected in the children's behaviour today.
There is abuse of children that parents would never view as abuse of children. And it's very common. It has to do with wanting them to have it all at exactly the same time. So you have a young child who obviously has to not only go to school, has to now on a Monday take violin lessons, on a Tuesday take gymnastics, on a Wednesday run track, on a Friday do all of this, because after all, that's what you do, because this is accepted in society. And by the time Thursday comes along, this child is falling flat on its face because it's absolutely overextended. So that it's abusive to expect all of these things of the young child, but society is saying, not only do you have to expose your children to all of this, which is a proper exposure, but not all at once. The parents expect perfection. And unless the child does it according to their terms, it's extremely upsetting. It becomes a can you top this thing? 4-year-old birthday parties, out of control. A child would be very happy with throwing a Frisbee in the backyard and having some ice cream and cake. Now there are birthday parties which are balls. The little girls wear gowns and the little boys rent tuxedos, and they go to the Cinderella ball. So already they're setting up sexual roles here too, but we don't even want to touch that. But this is not child-orientated. This is parent-orientated. And society has permitted this to happen. They want this perfect product, but they don't care about the process getting to this. I think a lot of parents today are professionals. They view a child as a project, one to be turned out into this clone almost. And they all have to be winners. And that's abusive. Watch little children playing t-ball. Everybody gets a trophy. Not everybody's a winner. And that's okay. You better learn that early on in life. There's nothing wrong in doing nothing. Everybody likes to hang out once in a while. A little bit of quiet time, a little bit of silence. Doing nothing is doing something. Studies have shown over and over again that children that are creative and fantasize usually have better coping skills as adults, because in their fantasy they work out, well, if I do this, then this would happen. Again, cause and effect. And if I do that, that'll happen. And then they have choices to make, and they make their own choices. And in a fantasy, they don't have to check with mom and dad, did I do it right? Enough children don't seem to understand that parents will love them no matter what. And maybe enough parents don't understand that you do love your children no matter what. You may not like their behavior. You may be disappointed. But love should always be there, and trust should always be there. And that's what parents should really be working on, rather than ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, because that's what life is really, I believe, all about.
I was wondering if you would be able to comment on how, left uncorrected, how these lessons learned in those early years could affect the later life.
Well, a child who doesn't have the value of appreciation of his fellow man can be a person, an adult, who puts others down to make themselves feel better. Also, a child who grows up thinking they can do no wrong will have a great deal of difficulty compromising in the workplace or at home. When parents are so busy, very often they forget to listen. And the child then gets the feeling, well, what I have to say isn't important because they're really not listening. Or, you know, Mom, I told you that. I told you that 3 times, but I guess you didn't hear me. So often parents will say, well, what did you do in school today? I played. No, that's not what I asked you. What did you learn in school? Well, play is a child's work. When you're playing with the sand, they're learning to control their fingers. When they're playing in a dramatic play area, they're learning different roles to play, different things to share with their peers. If they're building a building, they're learning geometry and physics and things of that nature. They're doing a lot more than playing.
I can't help but think of the connection between play and creativity, particularly creativity in later life, because much of the work on people who have, you know, received recognition for their creativity, not that they're the only people who are creative, of course, but that one of the things they typically say is, I'm just having fun. It's
That's right.
play. It's play
That's
for
right.
them. Right, where everyone else who doesn't have that particular field of creativity think, how can they do all that work?
In good early childhood centers, the child is never given a model as to what something is supposed to look like, because they're supposed to do it themselves, you know, and they may draw something that makes no sense to you, but if you talk to them, it'll make perfect sense. Well, I put the snowman's hat upside down because I thought that it might make him more comfortable because the snow wouldn't be going in his eyes. Well, made perfect sense to the child. And what about the parent that might say, well, that was a stupid idea?
But it showed a lot of compassion on the child's behalf.
Exactly, and you have to have an appreciation of that.
I heard it said once, and I thought it was well said, that for a young child, the fact that a door opens is as amazing as if a dragon walked in the door.
Sure, or how often a child, you know, they have gates on doors so that children don't fall downstairs or whatever, and sometimes the child will spend hours just watching that gate. Hours. And then all of a sudden, he's learned how to open the gate. It's discovery. You know, the ideal way to learn is through discovery.
What can we do best to support the emotional development of the children in these very early years?
Well, certainly you have to have a realistic level of expectation. You have to appreciate where the child is in his time and in his space. We talked about you wouldn't expect a 6-month-old to walk. Well, why would you expect a 3-year-old to read? It's just not realistic. A parent can give a child as a gift of time, a gift of childhood, a gift of emotional support, of closeness, of knowing that I will always be there to protect you. I think parents have to have a great respect, and educators, for intellectual curiosity. I think that's so important, and encouraging that. And that can just be from a young child touching a mother's hair, or touching a different fabric, or crawling on the floor and touching something that's a different feel. That's how they learn.
I'm thinking about the importance of the adult being able to put aside what their emotional needs might be at any particular moment, to give priority to the child's emotional needs.
Parents are so busy that I don't think that they take time to even think about what their needs are. It's just get through the day, drive them to the soccer, drive them here, drive them there. If you do nothing else, at the end of the day, give each child 10 minutes of uninterrupted time. Can even be 5 minutes. It's just the time when that child knows I'm important. And it's nice for the parent to be able to sit down and say, so how's it going? You know, open-ended questions. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Those are things that you can only do when they're very young. You're building that foundation. Because if you've never done it before, and you say to your 14-year-old, talk to me, they look at you like you're crazy because you've never done it before.
Touching back to where we started, the importance of breaking through some of those conditioned patterns. As we discussed in an earlier show, the ability to move beyond the conditioning, what we learned, the lessons we learned in the early childhood, the ability that we have to move beyond that is our hope of experiencing our authentic self. And I think that parents can help with that, explore new ideas and different ways of doing things that are done differently in different households, in different communities, in different nations.
If they learn in the beginning that maybe there are really no massive rights and wrongs, that helps them as adults, because there's always that shade of gray.
Through the power of our own ability to think clearly with discernment, we can put aside childhood conditioned interpretations of the world. And in so doing, we can take courage in hand and stand up against the forces both within and without that seek to destroy us. That is, we can stand up against those forces that seek to rob us of our authenticity, that seek to deny us the right to be heard, and that also seek to prevent us from living harmoniously with others. I hope you can join us in following programs when we will consider the importance of art and nature in education for all people of all ages. So, until then.